Hello, everybody. I was not anticipating on making yet another update video for you guys, but here we are. And I'll bet most of you are wondering, what the hell happened? Where did I possibly disappear to these last 2 months? Well, these last couple of months between January up till now have not been good. This is not what I was hoping for the start of this brand new year, but every which way thing that could go possibly wrong went exactly wrong. And it's been quite an emotional roller coaster. So where do I even begin? Back when I made my 2023 update video, basically telling all you guys what content to expect, I was also dealing with a very bad friendship breakup with two people in a server that I'm in who I thought were gonna be good friends, and the two of them just turned out to be a couple of pricks. And they were more or less just talking smack about a whole bunch of guys in our group still. They were bugging me and another one of my closest friends, and this same close friend was mentally tortured to where he just had enough. Me and my two admin colleagues, we sat down and we basically kicked them from our server and more or less cut ties with them. And that was that. And that was pretty much right at the beginning of January, which was not what we were expecting. And then I was in the process of working on some videos, but I had a whole bunch of IRL stuff to worry about, and I kind of put it towards the side for a bit. And while I was trying to do some of the reviews, as I know I was already falling drastically behind since Christmas and trying to get, back on track, I come to find out that Mattel was basically on what I like to call a Thomas killing spree. And what they were doing was anything to do Thomas related, whether it was full-on episodes from whatever season, full VHS, DVD rips, whatever have you. Anything to do with Thomas content, they were just wiping Thomas completely clean off of YouTube. Why were they doing that? I couldn't tell you. I really don't know what the intent was for that, but whatever. But in the moment when they were doing that, I was more or less afraid that if they were just deleting anything that had any kind of Thomas content on it, I was kind of afraid to put out any more reviews for them being at risk if they were just going to get blocked worldwide. I did end up checking my other reviews, and for the moment, they do seem to be untouched, but I don't know how much longer that's going to last. But I'm going to hold my breath on that, and that's another topic. But again, at the moment, I didn't really want to put out any kind of Thomas content out there, just for the time being. So I kind of put a stop on those completely unannounced. So by then, we had gotten to the middle of February, and a few days prior, I was speaking to my grandmother, as I know most of you know, how really close I am with her, and I was just checking up, just doing my usual calling with her. Well, I was trying to call her on Super Bowl Sunday, and I called her about 3 different times, and she never answered. So I got concerned, and my mom sent me over to her place, which I was literally not even 2 minutes away. And basically when I got to her house, and when I saw what I saw, my heart sank. Apparently, she had been on her living room floor for about 2 days with no food, no water in her system, She was covered in urine and feces as well as her floor, and I was in shock. And I immediately called my mother, and we were trying to get whatever the hell happened out of her, but she was just so delusional with what happened, we really couldn't get a straight story. So we ended up cleaning her up. We cleaned her house, tried to get some food and liquids in her system, and we were just going to go from there. When my mom left to go watch the game, 10 minutes later, my grandmother was complaining of a stomach ache, and I tried to get her up all by myself, and I just wasn't strong enough, literally just to get her up. But I tried, and while we were doing that, she really had no lower body strength, and unfortunately her legs buckled from underneath me, and she fell down and once again soiled herself. So I had to call my mom, and we got her all cleaned up, and we did whatever, and then she went back home once again, and I watched her throughout the night. By that Monday, she seemed to be okay. My sister came over to come and help me out a little bit, but she had to use the restroom sometime in the afternoon, and while me and my sister tried to get her up, she once again buckled from underneath us, and we weren't strong enough. So my mom pretty much said this was the final straw, and we took her to the hospital. When we got her to the hospital, we were told something that was very confusing. Apparently, she had to have had this before she even was admitted the day that we had called her in. She tested positive for COVID, and we were kind of like, what? Like, we don't know how she got it, because the only people that she was around were me, my mom, and my sister, and neither one of us showed any kind of symptoms whatsoever. So I'm very unsure as to how she got it. But then her x-rays came back, and we were told that she had multiple fractured ribs, and that was caused from when she fell. She pretty much hit a hard wooden beam on the bottom of her couch, and she had to have hit it pretty hard because, again, there were multiple fractures. So she was basically in there to treat the COVID, heal up a little bit with the ribs. She needed IV fluids, blood transfusions, like literally the whole 9 yards just to get her strength back. And she was in there for about 8 days or less. And when she finally came home, they told my mom she was not to be alone. She pretty much needed round-the-clock care. And I was pretty much put on volunteer duty of that, so to speak. And for a little while, she seemed okay. From the Monday she had come back, and then I watched her on Tuesday, everything seemed cool. By Wednesday, it just kind of went to shit, really. And I noticed it pretty quickly. From early, I want to say, as I think Wednesday, if not pushing early Thursday morning, she was constantly calling me 3-4 times in the middle of the night, and I noticed she started frequently urinating, and I couldn't figure out why this was happening. This carried on for quite a number of days, and it got to the point where we were on the last week of February, and I was pretty tired. I was up so many times for about 4, if not 5 straight days, with barely any sleep, and needless to say, I became very cranky. And there was a couple of moments where, I was getting into arguments with certain family members of mine because I just felt like I was being ignored. And everyone was just telling me to just suck it up. And I was getting even more mad being told that, because I was mentally drained, I was physically exhausted, and I just felt like in the heat of the moment, I just couldn't do it. So I watched her for a few more days after that, but then it just got to a point where my grandmother started having delusional visions. If not, they were actually more or less of hallucinations, I should say. I noticed that it was getting very, very bad, so I broke it to my mom, and finally we took her to the hospital on a Thursday. And then the second time she was in the hospital, we found out it was a lot worse. Not only was she guaranteed to have a UTI, but she was also diagnosed with what they call post-COVID pneumonia. And we were more, again, confused, because we were like, well, how did she get pneumonia? Like, there was nothing in the house or whatever that could have given it to her. So, again, we were confused. With the hallucinations, we were told that this side effect is actually more common in elderly patients. Basically, if a UTI is left untreated for a certain number of days, particularly in elderly patients, it starts to make them go mentally insane. And unfortunately, that was the path that I saw my grandmother take. And not for nothing, she was still healing from her fractured ribs, so that also didn't help. She was also starting to have very complicated breathing problems, and they just couldn't get her levels to stay right. Her appetite also was all over the place, and even before we had her in the hospital, she was very fussy and cranky with me, which was something that I did not tolerate. And then it only got much worse, because the way she was sitting in the bed for so long, because you couldn't get her out of bed because her legs were so shot. A pulmonary blood clot had formed in her lungs, and they had her on so many different antibiotics and steroids, like anything to clear up the UTI, the pneumonia. Now this clot, like, she was a mess. So we just kind of sat back and we patiently waited just to see if anything was going to get better. And no matter what the doctors did, her body just wasn't properly responding. And last Wednesday, the doctors basically pulled my mom to the side, and they told her there was really nothing much more they could do. And my mom had to make the most toughest decision, I think, of her life. We all basically agreed to put her in palliative care, where they were just going to heavily sedate her and let nature completely run its course. It was pretty much the only option we had. But then by Thursday, on the 16th, sometime, whatever it was, she was already starting to deteriorate on her own. And they were already going to start taking, like, her oxygen away and just whatever. But unfortunately, around 3:40, I think it was, my grandmother unfortunately passed away. And before anybody asks, I actually did not get a chance to go and visit her in the hospital. I was offered several different occasions to go, but my thing was, that was not the last vision that I wanted of her. I really could not bring myself to see her like that. I wanted to remember her basically how she was before any of this had happened. So I honestly just didn't go at all. So now we're basically in the process of just jumping whatever hurdle that comes with a family death. As we speak, my family are currently emptying out her house. We're stopping all her meds, turning off her TV, her phone, her lights, that whole thing. And she is going to be cremated any day now. And one of her nephews and my mom are going to be planning a memorial sometime after Easter. And other than that, that's pretty much where I'm at right now. So you can see everything in my life right now has been one hell of a roller coaster. Now, where does this leave me for the duration of my channel? I have every intention on coming back as soon as I can. I had really hoped to have a lot of videos done by this point, but none of us expected this tragic event to happen. So, because I was on such, round-the-clock care with my grandmother, the last thing on my mind was anything but YouTube videos, and I had to step in and I had to do my part. I know and I understand that it did put me far, far behind schedule, more than what I was anticipating, but I'm going to try to basically get back on track and do whatever. So these right now are the current videos that I'm still working on. I know I said back in January I promised my Santa's Little Engine and my Songs from the Station review. That is more or less still in the process of being edited, and I'm going to try and get it out as soon as I can. I am currently working on my next Theodore episode commentary, and that should be done any day. And I'm also working on part 2 and 3 of my Q&A. I do have a couple of other Thomas reviews that I was starting to write the scripts for, but I might have to postpone a couple of them and push them further back into this season. If not, maybe push them towards 2024. I don't know. I have to rearrange a lot of stuff. Like I said, I really wanted to have a lot more videos done by this point, because I should tell you guys this now, but at the tail end of June, one of my best friends, Matt, Nostalgia Dude 1998, will be visiting again, and he'll be spending about a month or so with me and my family for the summer. And I really wanted to have a bunch of these videos done, because once July hits, I will not be putting out any kind of content, so I will be gone for another month. But again, like I said, once I rearrange everything and I figure out what I feel like doing, what I can just wait on a little bit, I will try to get these videos out to the best of my ability. All I ask for is that people just be patient and just bear with me and give me a little time to just gather my thoughts, because everything that I've endured so far has not been the most comfortable weeks of my life. But I promise you, I will get these out as soon as possible. Other than that, that's really all I have to say. So, thank you guys for watching, and I will hopefully see you all really soon.